Welcome to the Pat Mayo Experience presented by DraftKings. Today, audio only, no video for this episode, a very special episode of the Corona Cast. Yes, Davis is back. He stuck around after we did the DraftKings show yesterday. We kind of talked through some stuff as we do on the show. If the show's not for you, then take a hard pass. If you do enjoy it, please leave a rating, leave a review, smash the like button of the episode. We do talk about going back to the gym. We briefly touch on the debate and just what's going on in our day-to-day lives. We talk some fantasy stuff and more industry stuff as in terms of like tools that you can use out there. What are good tools? Where the money is currently being made right now within the fantasy and betting industry. It's it's all over the place as these shows tend to go, but people tend to like them. I really enjoy recording them. I know Davis does too, so hope you like it.
Mayo Experience.
Mayo Experience. Mayo Experience. Mayo Experience. Experience.
Do the old double record here, and I can send you the file afterwards. What time is my gym appointment today? I should probably look that up.
Just ordered an exercise bike from my house.
Like a Peloton? Oh, 1:30. Yeah, I got tons of time.
Cool. No, not like a Peloton. Not because I'm too poor to get one, but because I so strenuously object to the idea of paying $40 a month for something I paid $3,000 for. Just tilts me to no. I think that's like criminal.
Well, you're paying for the Peloton itself in terms of the equipment, and then you're paying for the classes. It's like having a gym membership, but then wanting to do like a Zumba class or something like that, which costs extra.
Yeah, so it is exactly like that, but theoretically, there really is not that much difference between the $3,000 Peloton and the $1,000. There are a million other stationary bike brands, and you could buy, said $1,000 one and just bike to your heart's content. I mean, maybe the Peloton classes are the most amazing, mind-blowing things of all time, and it just makes you so jazzed up to exercise, but I really hate the idea of it.
I would guess that the big part of it is that when you pay for the classes, you then feel obligated to do it. And I would think that most people who get a Peloton aren't the biggest like workout people to begin with, that you would want like a personal trainer to get you going.
I would think that's probably true, or I think that it's probably the other way, because I don't know if this is the case at your gym, and this has been the case at some of my gyms and not the case at others. When I went to a really, really nice gym in Kansas City when I lived there, like the nicest, most expensive gym in my area, the classes were actually full of people who are just like ripped, like top 10th percentile, or I guess 90th percentile fitness of people that I would see at the gym. And then when I went to a more suburban, like regular, like average Joe's gym here in St. Louis, it was the opposite, where the classes were, filled with just normal 50th percentile people. And I don't know the correlation there, but I assume that my thought would be actually the Peloton is full of the people who are just like fitness freak style people.
That's really interesting. So the gym that I go to, I don't know if if the other one is open. There's like two of them that are. You ever heard of like Barry's Boot Camp Gym? Like they're like a chain.
Like not that one specifically, but like sure. I mean, I understand the concept of it. Yeah.
So that one is right across the street. Like if I'm running at the treadmill at my gym, I can see into Barry's. And those people are just jacked. Like that as like optimal fitness. Like the people in those classes are the ones that
so like in the States, that would be like Orange Theory Fitness would be the equivalent of that.
Okay, so at my gym, which is like the biggest chain in Canada, I go to Good Life just because you can buy for an extra $10 a month. You can get like any like the all over membership, so it doesn't matter what club you go to, you can just go to them.
Yeah,
and they're everywhere. So like, there's one that's by my house. There's one that's by the office. If when travel used to be allowed, that when I would go home at Christmas time, I could go to the gym there, and just it's. For the extra $10 a month, it was worth not the hassle of like filling out all the paperwork every time that you go in, or paying the extra $5 if you go. Like, I go to enough of them that it makes it worth my while. But the classes at the one that I go to are kind of like the 50th percentile as well. Have you ever done a class at the gym? I've never done it.
No, I've never done it and I never would. It's like not motivating to me. And it like just really, it's like, I would just hate it. Like it's not something that interests me at all. Like I actually was just talking about this with Bales on this show the other day, but like I actually, when I'm at the gym, I do like a very good job of, first of all, being motivated to go to the gym and like, doing solid exercise while I'm there, getting my heart rate up and everything. But like, I actually think in a weird way, doing like some kind of like virtual class or something like that, like, the Peloton app, as I'm like owning myself in this conversation right now, I actually think at home, it would be way more useful to me as opposed to going to a class at the gym. Like that would just feel extraneous to me.
Did you tire of the home workouts?
Well, for a while I was running outside and I hate that. And I probably was in like a month and a half, 2 month groove of like, free weights and everything at home. I was doing some jump rope, was doing assorted stuff here and around the house. And I've totally like lost kind of as football season ramped up. I've really fallen off.
After the baby came, so my son was born in the middle of May. I did like okay for the first little bit, but once everything kind of got ramped up when he needed like when he was awake for more than 60 minutes at a time kind of thing. So my wife would have one of our sons and I would have like the newborn, or we'd switch off of it, that it just became impossible to work out at home.
Yeah, and I mean, I assume that is like an experience that many people are having right now, where it's just like, this is terrible. Like, I don't want to do this. I don't want to do this at all. Like, the motivation's got to be all-time low for at-home workouts.
It is, and once the gym reopened, that I'm kind of like you. Like, if I go to the gym, that is my motivation. It's getting to the gym.
Right.
But once you work everything into a routine, you work everything into a schedule, then it's not that big of a deal anymore. But once I'm there, I feel like I work out really hard for the hour that's there. And I absolutely adore the new system that they have set up here. I'm not sure what the regulations are like where you are, or where it's specific to anyone else. But in downtown Toronto right now, like, I have the app for my gym. It says, are there any spots left from this time to this time? Because I don't know what the maximum capacity at the gym I go to is. I would guess it's probably like 200 people, maybe a bit more. And they're only letting 54 in at a time. Like, that's their new max capacity. They have all like the barriers set up between the treadmills, although no one is using the treadmills. No one's using any of the cardio equipment because you can't shower after you're done there.
Right.
And you can do that. It's still warm enough. You can still do most of that shit outside anyway. Like, why would you reactivate your gym membership to go run on a treadmill when you can legit run outside?
Yeah, I mean, I would. So the thing I would want to do at the gym is I love doing the stairs. Like I'm really into doing the stair stepper. Like that's peak for me. So I would do cardio at the gym. I have not gone back to mine yet. As far as I know, the gym next to my house, they reduced the capacity by 50%. They took out a bunch of the equipment to space it out in there. Like, they removed half the cardio equipment, spaced it out, and then put up big plastic dividers in between them. Like, it seems like a reasonable enough setup. I still feel a little sketched out about it.
Yeah, I found one thing that I've really liked about kind of going back, like, you only have an hour, so you book your time. Like, mine today is at 1:30, so I can go.
And you just get it done.
And like, it forces me to like really like kind of go at it as hard as I can. Like, I'm not and everyone sort of feels the same way. At least they're acting the same way. And gym people, by and large, at least the people who are going back now, you're not getting as many like casual people going back. Like, I have to book my gym time like a week in advance. Like, the day that the stuff comes out, I have to go book it, or I'm not going to get a spot because people are like gung-ho to get back. So it's the gung-ho gym people that are there anyway, who are people who are routinely good with wiping down their equipment. Like, that's serious gym people all do that stuff. It's the people that don't put away their weights, that don't wipe stuff down, or the people that go like once every 2 weeks. If that makes any sense. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, I think that my guess would be is that everyone at my gym is doing the same thing. Like, there's not people walking around just like, being jackasses. My concern is just like, it seems like the thing that people feel most confident saying about the coronavirus is that, like, you get it via airborne stuff. And I feel like the gym would just, trap that crap in there. And maybe that's wrong. And maybe gyms are like not going to be a super spreader type situation or anything, but like it just sketches me out basically.
It sketched me out too, so I was hesitant to go back at first because I kind of felt the same way you did. So I went. I was like, I want to go back to the gym. This is something I like to do. And even during football season where there's such a grind, like I'm doing so much content, I'm at the office, and sometimes like we have big breaks in between shows or we're editing or we're exporting. Like I just like to hop over to the gym for an hour, go work out and come back. And like I can't do cardio because I don't want to do cardio at the gym, not be able to shower and come back and then be on camera for a while. It would just be like a really shitty situation. But everyone's pretty good about it. Like they have the gym people there, like the trainers aren't like they're training a few people. Most people who work at the gym are kind of like walking around being like, yeah, if you're not at your station or at your bench, like you have to be wearing a mask. And like they're like, if you don't wear your mask, like you have to leave. Like they're not afraid to. And when you have some guy who's like 6'4" and completely jacked, you tend to listen to that guy a little bit more than you do just random people. It's like, oh, this guy is terrifying. If he's telling me to wear the mask, probably should put on the fucking mask while I go just kind of casually walk around. But like once you're at your station, some people keep it on, most people don't. But like I said, people are very good about keeping their distance. Gym people really don't want the gym to be shut down again. Put it that way.
No, gym people are super invested in keeping the gym open. So yeah, I totally see that. My guess would be is that because it's like mostly young, healthy people who are like maybe not even young, but just kind of healthy people, and I would actually assume that those are people who are kind of like in tune with their bodies, if that makes sense. Like they would know, oh, I'm not gonna go do this thing if I feel unwell. Because I don't, and I also would assume, I guess, that those people would, just kind of be more conscientious and responsible. So maybe it's something I'll try out. I mean, I don't know. Maybe this exercise bike is what I need, and I will feel that fulfills what I'm missing, and maybe not. I don't know. I mean, I really wish that I could go to my gym without even like thinking about it, and I wouldn't have to sweat it. But that is still something that I don't feel great about.
And the chit chat aspect of everything, like I said, I'm rarely on my phone. No one's really ever on their phone anymore. And like the idiots who would take up like 3 machines, 8 dumbbells, have it all in them, and they're just like talking the entire time, like that's gone, which is really nice. So you don't need the 2 hour, have some like, and you don't get the idiots like the steroid dudes that are there that just work out for 3 hours a day. Like, you pick your hour, that's when you go. And everyone's kind of like, oh, I only have an hour. I'm actually going to work out when I'm here. I think it's actually a pretty decent system.
I mean, to me, it sounds like that's how gyms should work anyways. Is you just shouldn't be there for 3 hours and like, just lunking yourself around. Like I'm totally on board with that. Like as a concept.
So I'm curious to see when it ever goes back, because we're right now in a lot of danger of being like re-locked down, where like our second wave has hit here, and we had more cases like 2 days ago than we had at any other time since March. The big difference being that there's a lot more testing now. So the actual positive rate was only like 1%, where in May it was like 7% or 8%.
Super high.
Yeah. So they're really trying to tread water. Like all the schools are open, everything like that, so that people kind of expected this sort of thing to happen. But it's good to see that the positive rates are way down. My wife is freaking out though. she just won't go anywhere.
Yeah, I mean the interesting thing is our numbers in the States are way worse, right? Our both our cases are up and our positive rates are up. But hey, if you wanna move somewhere where you're under no threat of re-entering lockdown, buddy, come to the United States. We're not locking anything down. We're opening stuff back up. We got at the same time that the positive rates are increasing, we are just opening stuff back up because people are sick of it.
Well, that all comes down to like the choice too. Like, it seems here the government didn't mandate a lockdown or anything like that. It seems like it's really on the table, depending on how the next week or so kind of goes. Like if it gets out of control, like they're going to lock down again. But so many people were just devastated last time that I don't know if how many people are going to be able to risk it. And the government program of like, if you can't work because of COVID is still a thing. Like people can still survive that way.
Yeah.
But people don't want to go lose their jobs. One, and two, it does seem like a lot of people are taking it into their own hands this time. Like I have a friend who manages a restaurant, like a pretty like hoity-toity restaurant, and they have an excellent location for social distancing. Like most of the places that you see, keep tables 6 feet apart. It's like, yeah, we do. And then you walk in, it's like, that is not the case whatsoever. Most of the places around here, but they have like 2 floors. They can really space stuff out. And he said, even in the past week, it's like, we haven't changed our regulations whatsoever. Like we've been doing a good job of, everyone wearing a mask, the sanitization, but like people just in general don't want to go out and eat right now because they see the cases are going back up and they're just staying at home.
Yeah, I mean, I would assume similar stuff is happening out in the States. I mean, the only place that I've gone to go get food and stay there, there is here in St. Louis, there is a food truck garden. Like 5 or 6 food trucks will go and park, and then, you can go and sit 6 feet apart of people or whatever. And I've gone there a couple times, but that's the most I've gone to go mingle and eat around other people, and even that still kind of is like, you still feel a little sketchy.
Yeah, I've really stopped being sketched out by the entire process. Like it just seems like it's kind of like it's everyday life at this point.
That's life now.
Yeah, but people are astonishingly good, at least around here, at like wearing masks out, and whether it's just optics or not, it does actually make everyone kind of feel better. I think the amount of hand sanitizer going around, like if we had invested in hand sanitizer like a year ago, we'd be billionaires right now.
Yeah, if there was a way to get long on hand sanitizer in January, and you knew it, you'd be a rich man.
Well, a lot of people did invest in Zoom right away. Like, what happened to Skype? Did Skype really drop the ball with this?
Yeah, I invested in Zoom, but I got out too early. I assume that what happened with Skype is our experience with Skype, which is just that it's terrible. It's like not a reliable and useful software. Like it is truly the worst. Wow, Zoom is $473, Pat. This is depressing me.
What was it in March?
Let's go here. 1 year on March 6th, it was $114.
Oh shit, I didn't realize it was I didn't realize it was that much anyway.
I sold my Zoom at $180. This is so depressing.
Well, when Bales was on, I haven't listened to the show yet. What did you guys talk about?
A lot of good Bale stuff. He talked about investing in digital art, which is not something that I have even given a whole lot of thought of. I also did not know that Bales was a philosophy major in college. So we talked a little bit of Nietzsche and Sartre, and then also we had the conversation of like, how much is working from home just going to be like the norm now? And I think that we both agreed like working from home is going to be basically something that people can choose to do instead of something that like the company tells them they can do. Like, like 2-3 years from now, people are just gonna be like, I will get hired by your company, but I am not going to come into the office. I'm just going to work from home.
I think companies, it depends on what the business is, obviously, because there is going to be some sort of thing where, like, let's say that I do the show remotely, essentially, like you and I are speaking right now, so I can do my job remotely. But the shows are always better when I have people in studio with me. So there's going to be a give and take to that. Like, how valuable is it to have people in an office all together, depending on what your business is? Like, I can get away with never having anyone in the studio with me, and my show would be fine. But I do feel like the show is always better when I have someone in. Like, I guess that would be sort of the gauge of your company of whether you need it or not. I just find a lot of people now, it's like, you don't need to come in 5 days a week. Maybe you come in twice a week. Maybe you come in once a week, like that kind of thing. And that seems to be good, even with a lot of older people, because the pandemic has forced so much technology onto people who were just like absolute nobodies. Like my grandma can aptly use Zoom now. She can use FaceTime now. This was not the case 6 months ago.
Yeah, I mean I've had Zoom calls with my elder relatives, and I'm like, wow, this is The human brain and its ability to like adapt to its circumstances is pretty crazy. Because I just I would assume that my grandparents would have never bothered to figure out this technology without this happening, and it's just kind of wild to see.
Somehow my grandma has figured out how to order groceries online and like essential things online, yet I don't think she's stumbled onto Amazon yet, which her job for the past 40 years has been like professional shopper. She just goes out and buys things at the mall and then like returns them the next day. That's what she does with her days. That if she had Amazon, I feel like my grandfather would like have to disconnect the internet because I think they would go broke.
They would just be balled out on everything.
Yeah, and then she'd be like trying to return it, but she doesn't want to go to the grocery store where the post office is, where you have to return things. So they just have like a stockpile of boxes around.
Yeah, that's pretty interesting. I mean, I think that old people discovering Amazon, like for me, I think old people like seem sketched out by the entire idea of it. Like they end up being like they're hesitant to even sign up for it because like I think it like kind of offends their sensibilities of just having literally anything you could ever want at your fingertips 2 days away. Like you just get it, then it's just yours. Like I think that there's something about that like rubs people over a certain age the wrong way.
I think it goes back to a lot of how people thought about buying things on the internet like ages ago. Like in 2007, like, I'm kind of sketched out about putting my credit card on the internet. Someone might like steal my identity. And now like sort of the prevailing thought between people our age, a little bit older and a little bit younger, it's like, well, our identity's probably already stolen anyway. Like, what's the difference?
Yeah, I mean, there was the Action Network just sent out a big email to everyone who is registered there and was like, yeah, we got hacked. They have your email. Like these people have your email and your password. And I'm sure I've gotten that email many times in my life.
I don't want to go too deep into like what your personal passwords are, but do you rank your password depending on the site? Like I have stronger passwords for stuff I really don't want broken into, and then I have weaker passwords that I just kind of remember for shit that like, I don't really care about.
Well, I use a password manager, so I don't have to think about it that much. But yes, I do have stronger passwords for like financial stuff, and it's like really long, and I have to write them down on paper so that I don't ever, lose them or whatever. And then I just have like, oh, I'm going to go sign up for add more funds to get air yards. I'm going to make my password very easy.
Yeah, just so you don't have to go look up what
dig
your password.
Something up. Yeah. That's the basic idea. I think everyone does that. If you're listening to this and you have just one password, please just don't do that. Go fix that right now. It's not a good spot.
I am kind of on board. Well, I've been talking to this with you on this show for probably like a year and a half now about how I want to move out of here, start working, not necessarily remotely. I would do the exact same thing, just do it from somewhere else. I think I'm finally going to make that plunge. My wife is looking at houses now.
Back in Nova Scotia?
Back in Nova Scotia, where my mom, I was talking to my mom yesterday. She had to go get a COVID test. I was like, you have one case between 4 provinces. Like, why are you getting COVID tests? She's like, well, I was around someone and they had the sniffles. I was like, this is the reason why like people are getting it. Because like you have no real symptoms. You think you have symptoms. Now you're waiting.
Don't if you don't have symptoms, don't go somewhere where other people might have it.
That's exactly the thing. Like we've been watching football at the same bar that we always do every single Sunday because they opened up. They have like the dividers in. No one goes to the fucking place anyway, so it kind of works out well. But on the way up, it's the only time I ever drive this route ever throughout the course of the week. But I passed the COVID testing center, and like 2 weeks ago, it must have been like an 8-hour wait. Like all of you do not have this many symptoms. You just don't, and you're probably getting it by standing in this line.
Yeah. I actually got the COVID test not that long ago, like maybe a month ago. I had no wait. They're trying a new thing here in the States. I did the swab, like the nasal swab, but then also they're trying a new saliva test. So I did the saliva test too. And I think they're trying to have you do them together so that they're able to build up a sample of the 2 tests together and their effectiveness.
So what they ended up doing here is to decrease the amount of wait. Like if you have symptoms, go wait in this line. Like people were just freaking out. But now at the pharmacies around here, they basically, you can, if you feel asymptomatic but you want to go get a test, you can go there to go get it. And it's like the non-swab one. It's, I don't even know how effective that is. Like what's the false positive or false negative rate on it? It's probably like 20%, isn't it?
I don't know. I think that it's pretty high. I think both the false negative and the false positive stuff with COVID tests right now, because I mean, again, this is stuff that they've been working on for like 6 months. Like this is not finalized science yet. So I think that both of those rates are pretty high.
Interesting. So I just found it funny that my mom went and got one of these tests when there's like legitimately no cases where she's at. And the only reason that they had like one was because migrant workers came in from Mexico and one of the guys had it when he showed up.
Interesting. People fleeing to Canada. Like it's not just people talking on Twitter. People are actually doing it.
No one's actually doing that because you can't actually go into Canada. Our borders are closed. Canada won't reopen its border to the United States.
And they shouldn't. They should not. No country should let us in right now. We are a petri dish for coronavirus infections.
You could probably go to like Brazil.
I actually saw a map of this the other day of places that are letting Americans in. No, I think Brazil is actually one of them. And then it's like some Eastern European countries. Man, our amount of total cases I'm looking at Worldometer's info right now. It is, I haven't looked at this in a while. This is absurd. This is so many people have the coronavirus in the United States.
But hospitalizations are way down, right? Like, isn't that like the argument against like, oh yeah, we should stay up because no one's actually like dying anymore? Isn't that? I've weirdly tried to stay out of the entire, like, it got so much, and I think that when we spoke like the last time we did one of these, that I was kind of like, yeah, I'm just kind of like disconnecting from the news at this point. I don't know really what it's helping me do besides being like, wow, this seems horrible all the time. And I just went about living my day-to-day life. Football coming back really helped. That just my entire
really
week
helped.
Is really just consumed with looking at football stuff and just the amount of injuries going on. It takes up a lot of my time that I've just been kind of operating as normal. Like if there's a new bylaw, I kind of have like a push alert being like, oh yeah, here are the new rules. But they're not even changing all that much stuff anymore. It's like, wear your mask, stay 6 feet away from someone, wash your hands, and you should be good to go.
Yeah, I haven't. I haven't looked at these numbers in a while. Like I have not been as plugged in, but this seems crazy. 7.5 million people in the United States have had the coronavirus.
Seems like a lot.
That seems like so many people. That seems like an absurd amount of people. And I actually now know someone who has died of the coronavirus, and it did not take long. Yeah, it was about 9 days. And it wasn't like a super close friend or anything. It was like a person in their 60s that I knew, and it was like, went to a dinner party, got it from someone at the dinner party somehow, and died 8 days later. Like, really was, like crazy fast.
Well, that's shitty.
Yeah, I mean, it's just, I think what it is that, it basically at this point, I do feel confident saying this. You could say coronavirus is the flu. We don't know what it does to young people after they're done, so on and so forth. I think it seems that like when old people get it, that's it, that there's just, their bodies are just not strong enough to fight against it. Like it's a done deal. Yeah,
and there's probably no way to figure out who is and who is not capable of fighting it off.
Fighting it.
That's my wife's biggest concern about it right now is that so there's 4 of us in the household. There's me, her, and we have the 2 kids under 20 months. Like if any of us get it, like we'll probably be okay. But at the same time, if our 1.5-year-old son gets it, like are his lungs fucked up like 5 years from now? Like we don't know. Like we still want to operate under the prefer not to get it.
That is I think that I would say like that's my take right now is if the United States federal government is not going to make it possible for people to stay home, like if they're not going to put in laws and they're not going to financially assist people, then like asking for lockdowns and shutdowns is completely unrealistic, right? Because you just can't have people not working jobs for 6 months at a time, especially because Americans have no savings because we don't have any wealth. But I also am terrified of the long-term effects of the coronavirus, and some of the things that some scientists believe and some scientists don't believe is that like it alters the way your brain synapses communicate with each other. They found that some people, even after recovering from the coronavirus, have cognitive deficits, like they're having like short-term memory problems, language problems, and these are like young, healthy people. They think the same thing for your lungs, but then again, other doctors are saying like, this is not controlled, yada yada. We don't actually know yet. I think the most terrifying thing is that we just don't know.
And it does seem like people are scrambling so much to figure out like, oh, it does this, here's what it causes, here's what it doesn't cause, here are treatments, that they're throwing so much shit at the wall that any first sign of, oh, this is positive or this is negative, like if that gets reported at all, that becomes like the prevailing sentiment, which just might not be true.
And I think that also this is we had SARS, we had H1N1, but this is the first fully online pandemic, right? Where everyone has a cell phone, everyone has Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and kids, old people, it doesn't matter. Everyone is online now, and adding that constant connectivity into a global pandemic certainly changes the way that people respond to it.
Oh, absolutely. Like, just think about the difference between one of the reasons mainly that public sentiment in Vietnam and the United States really took a turn, because it was the first war that was ever on TV. Like, people could watch it on TV as it went along. They were fucking horrified. Imagine that during World War II, if you were able to watch World War II on TV from home, like, it would be different. Like, and I think that I actually haven't heard many people talk about that in terms of what you just said. Like, everyone is just getting all of this information all the time. And it's not even whether it's proper information or not proper information. They're just reading the fucking headline and moving on and taking it as fact.
Yeah, people don't click on articles. Like, people don't read articles, dude. People don't even subscribe to the New York Times or the Washington Post or whatever to read those articles. Like, it's like headlines. It really is. It's wild.
Yeah, and you'll be able to find a headline that you like, which supports whatever you think based on nothing anyway. So it's really just an endless loop. It's like the debate. Like, if you were an undecided voter, how could you watch that debate?
I did not watch that debate. Not a chance.
Oh, come on. I mean, I'm watching it from outside of your country, so it's just pure hysterics to me. But like, anyone who tuned into that and be like, oh, I'm going to vote for either of these two, just like, kill me.
Yeah, I mean, the idea of to be an undecided voter in this election, you have to be at like a very low level of cognition to even be there. So I think that's so stupid. And I would only like watching Donald Trump talk for an hour. You couldn't pay me.
I mean, there's that side of it too. I mean, you literally couldn't be paid to watch Joe Biden talk for an hour, because I don't know if he can talk for an hour.
Yeah, I mean, I only watched the clips that kind of surfaced on Twitter and stuff, but it seemed like what people were complaining about was they were trying to talk over each other too much, but I didn't hear anyone be like, oh, Sleepy Joe. Like, he seemed like no one. The prevailing take was not that Joe couldn't speak well, but obviously that's like his big thing, is he's a gaffe machine.
Well, I found just from watching it, like, if Trump hadn't been so petulant trying to talk over everyone, like the move in the next debate for Trump, if he wants to like, and you could make the case that he won that debate, although there were no winners, especially anyone who watched it. Like, that's the whole thing. Like, there are no winners. Like, it was so bad on both fronts. Like, poor Chris Wallace was just like, this is embarrassing. I can't believe I'm involved with this. But if Biden didn't have it down what he was going to say, like the quick thinking that he needed, like he just started rambling, he started stumbling, didn't know what the fuck he was talking about. Like, if Trump had just let him talk, it would have worked out better for Trump, but Trump just can't do that.
Yeah, I mean, that's always that is like the funniest thing, is when people are like, oh, Trump is just this genius politician and he's got the Democrats up against the ropes. Like, I mean, I think Trump's guys, like I think Trump's people are very, very intelligent politically, but like Trump himself can't even do what would be needed to be done to win the election, which is just shut up and let Joe Biden gaff his ass off. Like you could tell Donald Trump, you are guaranteed to win this election. You will win. You will punish all of the haters and losers, of which there are many, if you just shut up and let him talk for an hour. And he would be completely incapable of doing that.
It really fundamentally, I think it comes down to, and this is why, even when you look at like all the new polling, like Biden's way out in front. Oh, a political bet. Democrats to win the state of Georgia right now in the Electoral College is plus 175. Polling would show that should be somewhere like, either if we're adding VIG to each side.
Oh, this is something I talked about with Bales. We talked about the concept of political polling, and my take was that the people who are super into political polling, the people who are doing the polling, and then, well, not so much the people doing the polling, but the people interpreting the polling results. My take is that those people have not adjusted and changed their models enough, and changed the way they did things enough after they got that crazy upset from 2016. My guess is that the models function very similarly to the way they did in 2016, and they did not change enough.
Oh, I was going to go the other way with it, that I think that there's probably nothing wrong with the modeling, just because polling itself has changed so much in the past 4 years just because of Trump, and trying to kind of find out where either what his wedge issues are, or the people who voted for him that, I don't think it was so much Trump that broke the polls. I think that the polls didn't estimate in how much people hate Hillary Clinton. And that was really the big part of all of this, that when you put someone who's like neutral, like Joe Biden, who people are kind of indifferent to, but don't hate, like objectively hate, that polling will go back to making more sense like it used to and be more accurate. But there's so many people who don't trust the polling anymore because it was so wrong last time, that I actually think that there might be an advantage to actually trusting it this time around. But I could be way off on it.
So this is why I disagree. I think that the people who vote for Donald Trump lie about it in the polls. I think that
But that's factored in now. Like, we know that Trump basically has a base of like 36% of the vote. Yeah. And you could just factor that into the poll. It's the people in the middle. And realistically, when you watch this, like, my biggest takeaway from the debate, like, if I didn't know who I was voting for, and you just kind of look at it, like, Trump's he just seems like a really bad dude. Like, if you are a sociopath or you just don't care about other people, like, Trump is for you. Like, he's doing what he says he's going to do. Like, I get, like, if you didn't care about other people, why you would do that. And a lot of people don't care about other people. They care about themselves. They care about their families. Like, and Biden doesn't seem like he's the most competent guy in the world, but at least he does seem like he cares about people. Like, that's, I really think, going to be the ending deciding issue, unless this Supreme Court justice thing ends up becoming the real issue. And if that's the case, Trump might win.
I mean, pretty fortuitous timing for old Donnie. I actually think it's just not going to end up mattering. She's just going to get confirmed before the election, right?
Well, if that's the case, then all the people who voted Trump for the Supreme Court vote just don't have to vote for him. They might just stay home.
Yeah, I mean, it's just a matter. It's just, I guess it would kind of seem to be a matter of what is more important to the people who are behind Donald Trump's campaign. Like, is it more important? Is it more important for them to get the justice in so that they can overturn Roe v. Wade and all that stuff, and do all of like the fundamentalist crap, or is it more important for them to get Trump in the presidency for 4 more years, where, like, let's be honest, the people who are voting in the primaries and everything for senators and for the House of Representatives, like, they are going to get donked on those for the next 4 years if Trump wins. So it's going to be very hard for them to push stuff out from the executive branch.
Yeah, I don't, if you are a Biden person, or you're just really an anti-Trump person, hearing all of Biden's going to win like 350 electoral college votes can't be like, that has to be kind of terrifying.
No, that's got to stop. People have to stop talking about that. That's like the most tilting thing to me, actually, is when we get the people who are like, oh, Biden's going to win for sure. Biden's pulling 10 points ahead. Like, all of that. If you were one of those people spreading that stuff around, please stop saying that, don't. This is going to be win on this is going to be won on like one or two swing states, and would not surprise me if it came down to like 1,000 total votes in Wisconsin or whatever. Like, do not be talking about this like it's going to be a blowout. I mean, Biden will win the popular vote by 10 million votes probably, but that doesn't matter.
Yeah. Well, that's the really interesting thing. Like, it's so alarming, and this was like kind of the big Twitter thing. And when we talk about like undecided voters, that kind of thing, like maybe they don't even exist at this point. But when Trump refused to acknowledge or refused to denounce white supremacy in any sort of form, like, he didn't lose any voters by doing that. And I think that's
no one cares.
Yeah, like everyone who was voting for him already knows that, and everyone who wasn't voting for him, it's like, yeah, he's a white supremacist. Sure, yeah, we know.
Or knows that, or like doesn't care. Right? It's just like it's more important for me to not pay taxes than it is to disavow white supremacy.
Yeah, I just thought that was a really weird, because that blew up on the internet. Like, that was such the big talking point. Like, I can't believe like this was such an easy opportunity to do it, but to him, that doesn't, like, I just don't feel like that swings any votes to, or like, if he had denounced it, that might actually have lost him votes.
Yeah, I mean, if Trump came out right now and was like, look, I don't want Nazis voting for me, I don't want white supremacists voting for me, that undisputedly hurts him at the polls. I think I don't even know if anyone would argue that with you.
No, but that's why I found it so shocking that people seem to be like, oh my God, I can't believe he didn't say it. It's like, well, I get why he didn't say it. It's it's not what I would say, but I do understand what, and maybe he just doesn't even fucking know what's going on. You know what I mean?
Yeah, he doesn't know who the Proud Boys are. He doesn't know. I'm comfortable saying that Donald Trump doesn't know who the Proud Boys are.
The one thing that I found very, I guess if you didn't watch, that especially when talking about like basically guaranteeing that there's a vaccine like 2 weeks away. And it's funny to throw, like, he's pro-vaccine, pro getting vaccinated with his vaccine. And I would guess that most like anti-vaxxers would probably be Trump voters. That just is a very logical leap in my mind. Maybe they're not. Maybe they're super like left-wing type people. I don't know. But Biden's like, yeah, I wouldn't trust that. It's just so funny to have like that role reversed.
The two things flipped. Yeah, that is funny. I wonder what is even, I guess, like, what is Donald Trump's people telling him about the vaccine delete? Like, is he just saying that because he thinks it sounds good? Are his people telling him like, oh, actually, no, this is close, like, we're working on it? Like, that feels very odd to me.
Well, from what all that it seems is that no one is saying that there is a vaccine close besides Trump. And he's just saying it so it makes a headline, and then people will read Donald Trump says vaccine is very close, and they'll be like, oh, great, that's good news. Way to go, Trump.
Yeah, I mean, I guess he's got it all solved, right? Yeah.
Just he's figured out that people pretend like they pay really close attention to this, and they really don't. Like,
they really don't. Yeah, I mean, that is 100% true.
And the Twitter people like to think that everyone is invested as they are, but that is such a small fucking minority of the population that most people hear like two or three things and like they're in.
Yeah, they're like, oh yeah, I'm good with that. Yeah, 100%. You're right. Yeah. No, I mean, like, I would say, because like what happens is there's a difference between being like online and then like being on Twitter. Like, people who are on Twitter all the time are like, and I'm one of these people, they are like very online in a very different way, because Twitter is easily the most negative, most terrible so online social media. Like, it's the worst for your mental health for sure.
Maybe we should just quit it all. Quit all the social media. I guess our jobs wouldn't be very good then. We'd lose our jobs.
Yeah. I like some aspects of Twitter a lot, and other aspects are terrible.
Yeah, they're mostly terrible. I always forget. I don't know why I forget, because I've been doing this for over 10 years now. Just the discourse surrounding football versus other sports, like the interactions that you get are bad. Like, there's just so much. And there's a lot of great people. Listen, there's many good people on both sides of the Twitter.
Great people on both sides, bud.
And like, someone asked me during an AMA the other day, it's like, what do you enjoy having people like recognize you? And very few people do recognize me, but it happens from time to time just because my face is out there a lot. And I was like, most of the time, it's the absolute worst thing that ever happens in my day or week. But I have made some really good friends from like interacting with random people that I've met. Turned out to be really good dudes. We get along and like we go have a beer and just become friends out of it. Like that's happened. I have friends today. That's how I've met them. But most people walk up to me, hand me their phone, and tell me to fill out their lineup for them. Like that's not a fun interaction.
No, that sounds terrible. That does not sound great. I've been recognized a couple times and it's always been cool though. Like no one's ever tried to have me fill out their lineup for them. So I feel blessed.
So I feel like I'm on the very low scale of this in terms of recognizability. Like I can't imagine like someone like Matthew Berry. Like that must just be like the worst type of being recognizable.
Yeah, where you're not famous enough to meet beautiful women who want to hang out with you or other famous people who want to hang out with you. It's literally just nerds. Like literally only nerds.
Yeah, like you don't. Maybe he does have the clout to be like, yeah, I'm not waiting in this line. I'm going to go up to the front and be like, hey, I'm Matthew Berry. I'm going to go walk in.
I bet he does. I bet Matthew does. He was in freaking Avengers Endgame, dude. Like Matthew has some clout, but he is like the most famous guy in our space.
Yeah, so I'm sorry. That's why I used him as the example. But like just half, I wouldn't even say half. It would probably be like 95% of interactions that he would get are probably, you fucked me when you told me to start this guy over this guy. Like, oh my God. Like we're out in real life here. Like this is crazy.
Yeah. I don't know. What's the worst? Do you have like a one specific terrible getting recognized story, or is it all just kind of like, who do I start, Jamison Crowder or Jerry Jeudy?
It's most of that stuff. There was a person who stopped me in the middle of the street one time when I was in a rush to get home to pick up my son. This was like last November or so. Like my son had just started at daycare for the first time, and I was rushing home. I was taking the subway to go get it. He stopped me in the middle of a crosswalk when I'm like trying to get to the subway because I know it's going to be backed up to get in, and he like basically stood in front of me after the light changed. Like, we need to get out of the fucking middle of the road for first things. And like he had his phone out being like, look at my team. I was like, oh my God. I was like, this is both good in the sense that, you know, people watch the show. This is good news. Like, this is the worst personal interaction that I could have ever had with anybody.
Yeah, I've never had anything. Like, I've had people be like, are you Davis Mattek? I follow you on Twitter. It actually just happened to me.
You should just say no.
No, because I like it. I think I actually probably have a bigger ego than you. I actually think I would even like the terrible interactions, to be honest with you.
It wouldn't be so bad if I didn't have things that I was like, I had an objective and I had a time limit to go do. And anything involving my kids now, I've become one of those people where I'm just like fucking mental over it all of the time. Like, I finally get it now.
Yeah, that makes sense. I don't know. I just I guess I don't have as many demands on my time.
Well, you just stay at home all the time.
Yeah, I really don't do much. I just, I grind a lot of fantasy sports, and that's mostly what I do.
There's a guy currently freaking out at me on Twitter for golf picks because his golf picks aren't doing well, and he used a bunch of guys that I didn't even pick.
Well, that's his own fault.
He's like mad about like verbally swearing at me, saying some very awful things. It's just weird behavior. I guess we're kind of like, did you ever see the South Park episode where Butters just had to deal with the mentions for celebrities on social media? He just had to absorb all of the hate. I guess that's sort of the role. No. Is that the main role of a fantasy analyst? Is just take heat from people, be the punching bag for people because they need to get it off their chest?
I actually, I don't really answer start-sit questions on Twitter anymore. And I think that's kind of absolved me of that. Like, I don't really get beat up by that stuff anymore, which seems nice.
I don't really do a lot of start-sits on Twitter, but I'll do like the live show where it's like, start this guy or this guy. It's like, start this guy. Like, I'm not even really thinking about it all that much. Just like first name that pops into my head. A quick tip for anyone who does ask you one of those questions. If anyone ever leads a question with, I really want to play X, but you have Y ranked higher, I will always tell the person to play the person that they've already suggested that they want to play.
Yeah.
Because you're going to play him either way anyway.
Yeah, it's like you're not gonna get me to be like, oh, don't play this guy, because I definitely don't want to deal with that.
Yeah. Like, there's no upside to me saying the other guy at this point.
Yeah, and it's just like it's always so tilting, like when you are like meaningfully above consensus on somebody and then they don't have a good game, and it's just like, great, Twitter is going to be awful for me for the next 48 hours. Like, Twitter's supposed to be fun, and instead it just ends up being like, fantasy football is supposed to be fun, and instead it ends up just being terrible.
Well, that's what happened with you in the Lotka guy, right?
Yeah, Visca Chenault.
There was also no reason for you to have anyone ranked that high who has no proven track record whatsoever. Like, I took a lot of heat for my Mike Davis ranking last week. I was like, this logically makes sense.
Well, on Fantasy Pros, I literally would only ever rank someone that high just for the clout, right? Because then if he does good, you're like, wow, it's like all the clout. You know?
Who is it clout from though? That's the one thing I don't understand about Fantasy Pros. Like, I've never understood it. Like, who is giving you this clout?
Fantasy Pros as a business model is like it's like questionable ethically at best. So I don't mind tossing in a Laviska Shenault wide receiver 12 every once in a while.
Yeah, but like, do you have to, like, I've never really participated in it, and they don't seem very eager to have me participate in it. So it's a very good relationship that way. But like, do you have to go submit your rankings, or they just take your rankings?
For some people, like, I use it because it allows me to have like an API widget that just displays my rankings. It's very easy for me to like publish and do all on my own.
Okay.
But I know that in the past, like, that is one of their selling points, is like, oh, that's why you should do rankings on our site, because it's very easy to share with people. But I know that in the past they have like taken Matthew Berry's rankings off of ESPN and publish them like without permission.
See that becomes like, I've noticed this a few different ways, because I know a few people, and I looked at like the competition that goes on for like the most accurate rankers kind of thing. If you were to keep up to date on all of the news and just rank a lot of people and make sure your rankings are updated like 5 minutes before the game's lock, you're probably going to finish inside the top 20.
Yeah, you could grind it.
Like, if you really wanted it, you could do it, and that's why I always wondered about, do they take rankings from other people? Like, if they take, I don't know, like someone like Matthew Berry's rankings, and they take his rankings from like Wednesday or whenever they come out, and they're never updated. Like, yeah, he's not going to do very well. Like, that seems wildly unfair, and it's like, that sucks.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure when they were grabbing Matthew Berry stuff, I'm sure they weren't grabbing it 5 minutes before lock. I'm sure they were grabbing it on like Friday afternoon and putting it in or whatever.
Yeah, so that seems relatively disingenuous.
Yeah, and that's why people have a problem with the Fantasy Pros business model.
I guess if they're not if they're not taking anyone's rankings who aren't submitting them, I don't see what the problem is.
It's just, it's a way to provide, because they charge, right? Because Fantasy Pros charges for their stuff, and they do it through the work of people they're not paying a lot of the times.
Yeah, I suppose that is true. But they don't charge you to look at people's rankings. That's just like an aggregated free service, isn't it?
Yeah, but they have here, I will go. I believe they call it the Fantasy Pros Edge membership, maybe. There's so many different. Fantasy Pros has some kind of premium membership, and they have like the, who should I start, waiver assistant, free agent finder, trade analyzer, all that stuff. And that all is fed in from rankings that they are not paying for.
Interesting. We have that at ftnfantasy.com. It's one of the tools, like it's the start sit tool basically, but it's just based off projections for the week. You can do them for the week, next 4 games, for the rest of the season. It'll just match up as many players as you want next to each other and show you where they succeed, kind of thing. And you can filter in your own stats. So if you want like market share of targets, if you want air yards, that kind of thing, you can just set those up and actually see people close together. So yeah, I would recommend FTN Fantasy, FTN Daily, FTN Bets for any of these tools. I like tools. I gotta say, like, that was our big thing at Fantasy National, was we don't want any content on this site. We want it to be easy to use tools, as many as possible, make them as customizable as possible, because golf fans seem to really like that. And people, it's really weird to me, like, just based on a lot of these interactions. But it seems like the people that would actually buy these products, and it seems to be more of them, are people that want to make their own picks. They don't want to listen to me or you make picks. Like, they'll listen to us because, maybe it's fun to listen to, or we have a good debate, or they hear a stat they didn't hear. But I would feel that most, especially our audiences in general, and I guess the only one that this wouldn't really pertain to would be like the show I do with Seeley, which is like a really highly like trafficked show on the internet in terms of like views compared to everything else. But that seems to be for people who just want to know, do I start this guy or this guy? And I can go on with my week. But most people want to make their own picks, don't they?
Most people who want to go out of their way to listen to fantasy football podcasts that are not ESPN's Fantasy Focus or the Fantasy Footballers, or I guess the CBS show too as well, probably.
And Fantasy Pros. Mike rates well. That gets a lot of downloads.
Yeah. So my
200,000 I heard per episode.
Yeah, it's a very attractive space to be in for that episode, for that show. So my guess would be people listening to this show, or your show, people listening to the Sports Grid Fantasy Football Podcast, people listening to the RotoViz Radio. Those people want tools. They want stats. They want tools. They like some content, but they like that content to be very stat driven. Like they just don't want people's takes for the most part, right? They want data, they want tools, and they want to be able to play around with it on their own.
Well, I would think that my audience is kind of in between, just because I do more of an entertainment-based show rather than a stat-driven show, that I think people like the takes. They don't necessarily agree with the takes from me or my guests. You probably fall into the same category too, that no one really cares what our picks are. They like to hear us talk about it and debate some sort of stuff, but we can push people to tools that actually help them win.
Yeah, I mean, and I think that people enjoy hearing people they like. And so even if I think even people who hate me, think I'm bad at fantasy, think I can't win, whatever, I think that they would still say when I'm on shows, like I at least present the information in a way that makes you think about the information one way or the other. And I would say the same is true for you, especially with golf stuff. Like it's even if you think the pick is bad, you're at least thinking about the pick selection in a way that helps you make decisions for that week.
Yeah, I'm better at golf too. I think I've hammered out the best way to present golf versus football. Like football, where I'm still catering to season-long players, to DraftKings players, to now bettors. I mean, we've been doing the betting for a long time, but now people are just more interested in betting. There's weird different levels of people, like people who watch the season-long fantasy football show, which still rates the highest in terms of video, like I mentioned. They still don't understand what a spread is. Like it's a different audience for each show, which I always found was really weird.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's weird to me because I either listen to a podcast or I don't listen to a podcast.
Me too.
Like for the most part, I guess the one that I keep in my feed that I don't listen to every episode is the Bill Simmons show. Like I don't listen to every episode of that show because he just has some like really boring guests that I don't care about at all. But for the most part, I will listen to every episode of a show when I'm subscribed to it.
It's really strange with like the Simmons podcast, because I'm sort of the same way. Like it feels like everyone's kind of turned on Bill Simmons. They don't like him. I like to listen to his podcast, but I like to listen to the one with Cousin Sal. I like to listen to the one that I don't mind the one he does with Ryan Russillo, but it just seems like they're more like buds talking, and that's always the style of podcast that I'm more attracted to, rather than like I don't know. I feel like I would want to read something from someone that was like sharp analysis, like Warren Sharp, for example. Although Warren's really good on these shows, but like if I go to like Warren Sharp's analysis, like I know what I'm reading, I know that it's going to be good. I'm going to learn something. I don't need to necessarily listen to him for an hour and a half talk, because it's not the loosest hour and a half.
Correct. Yeah. I mean, and like I actually, my experience with that show is like, I just do not care when he has celebrities on. Like when he has, here, let's just go through here and look at his feed. When he has like, or when he had Raja Bell, Kevin O'Connor on, don't care.
I listened to that episode. I actually like that one. But that's
Yeah,
how
I mean, I like it. He's so entertaining. Like Simmons can be as wrong about stuff as you want. Whatever, we all get stuff wrong. He just is he just knows how to host a podcast and how to keep people entertained for an hour. Like he's just very good at it.
Well, I just find it's very weird. Like when I look at the video numbers, like the show with Celie and I does the best. When I look at the audio numbers, the show that I do with Jeff and Tim does by far the best. Like it's not even close, like on both sides. It's just so weird that so many people would tune in. But there's so many people that tell me like, if Tim is on a show, I refuse to listen to it. I was like, that's weird. Because people.
That's on you, bro.
Yeah, just because those tend to be the most popular audio shows. But like video wise, like the more informational guests tend to do better on video. The more casual guests tend to do better on audio. It just, I would have thought it would have been uniform across the board.
Well, and also the Cust show people are probably like the Mayo super fans. Like those are people who really like the show and have been listening to it forever, and they probably never miss an episode.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's the me, Jeff, and Tim like football show, but it's also like it's the longest one of the week. It's the funniest one of the week. Like, I don't know if it's like a super fan style. I think it's just like, I don't know, like when we just did the DraftKings show, it's a lot more, I wouldn't say it's more serious than like any other week, but it's more serious than how we're talking right now. Like it's more of like a structured show. Here's what we're going to talk about here. And while that show is the same way, it can just go off the rails at a moment's notice. I guess there's some sort of appeal to that.
Yeah, I mean, people, if you're not like a serious, like I need the information and I need it now, like you want shows that are going to go off the rails as much as possible, probably.
Yeah, I think that's a problem that people have with my shows. Like they're long. Some of them stick to the point very easily, and like they're all time coded and everything like that. But I do think that I kind of hit a better sweet spot when it's conversations like, not necessarily like this, because this is really about nothing, but when we do the spread show or when Jeff and I do the golf show, that we can kind of talk about anything in the framework of that show. It doesn't really matter. That I think, and maybe that's why it does, now that I'm talking this out loud, I think audio-wise, that's why it does better, because people who listen and download audio podcasts don't really care about the time. Like 2 hours, great.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, probably those people are like the longer the better. Like they want to see like a 4-hour show.
Yeah, I wonder if they're, because I was thinking about launching an entirely new podcast on an entirely new feed. Let me throw this in, because I'm looking for someone to do it. I just don't have the time to do it, nor do I want to do it. I want to produce it, get it out there, help promote it. And I thought it would be good for the video channel too, just to kind of repurpose both. Is there, and maybe this already exists, just nothing that I'm currently aware of, but basically like a 3 to 5 minute recap of injuries or news of the day that's just available by the time you wake up? Like just here's what happened. And it's 5 minutes.
Yes, CBS Sports does that.
Did they do it well?
I don't know. I never listened to it. CBS Sports Fantasy Football Podcast.
It's 5 minutes?
Yeah.
Oh, see.
Well, I don't know. I don't know if they do it anymore because they were doing it when Gretsch was there, and maybe they don't do it anymore.
Yeah, see, I do think that there should be, I don't know for sure, but it feels like there should be a market for something like that, for like pure information people. Oh, I didn't have time to go on to like Roto World and scroll through 8 pages of notes. What are like what's everything that happened in rapid fire succession?
Okay. I mean, I know that this podcast existed. I'm not crazy.
Well, it doesn't sound like
maybe they don't. It sounds like they don't do it anymore because I can't find it.
But like, why couldn't you tailor a product that is an audio podcast, a video, and maybe even like a newsletter that you subscribe to that you get, and you can opt in or out of whatever sport that you want. But this should exist for football, baseball, basketball, hockey, any sport that just kind of relies on injuries. That like, here's the latest, and here's what happened yesterday.
Okay, I lied. It is still here. Fantasy Football Today in 5 every day, 5 minutes exactly.
But does it exist for every sport?
Seems like just football.
Okay. That's a good idea. It's a good idea for a podcast. Did not realize that existed.
It's a great idea. Yeah.
I'm just shocked more people, because Brad Evans' podcast, like it's 15 minutes, I think. I think that's a good length. Like if you're not going to be super long, be super short.
Yeah, so if you're not going to go 2 hours, don't go 53 minutes. Like that's kind of middling it.
I mean, I go 53 minutes a lot of the time. Like I try to keep it right around an hour for the like obviously super duper long shows. I think that's enough because I do a show every day too, right?
Yeah. So I think it's different. I guess everyone's probably just looking for something different. It's different if you're doing if you're doing an informational show, like this is a show people are going to listen to get information to try and win at their fantasy sport. I would say probably 30 minutes is honestly the sweet spot for like informational shows.
I would think less.
You think like 15 minutes? 15 minutes, you get in, you get out. These are the plays.
Yeah, because if someone is actively searching for an information only show, they really don't give a shit about who's giving the information. That they just want the information, they want the pick, and they want to be done with it, get in and out as quickly as possible. Like Beer Maker's videos, like the quick picks that he does for grinders. Like it's a really good concept for a video. Here are the picks, here are the plays. You get to watch it for 2 minutes and you're out.
There's a huge market for that. Like we like, because I think you and I probably like to consume content that's like informational and entertaining and keeps us immersed. It's in the background for a long time, but a lot of people just want to get in, click the picks, and get out and find money in their account later.
Yeah, that's almost impossible to do. No one's that good. That's why, in terms of like here, because like I brought back the triple play this year, which is like a 2-minute video. Here are 3 picks at each position, and here's one pick over 3 positions of 3 guys that I'm using this week, kind of thing. You could use all those 3 guys and still lose. You could use all those 3 guys and they suck, and you could still win. Like that's, they do good traffic wise. That's why I do them, and I try to make them as fun as possible. But at the same time, like, if you were really serious about getting in and out with something, like a cheat sheet would be better, wouldn't it?
Cheat sheet would be better, but you have to pay for those, right?
Yeah.
People don't want to pay. People want the picks for free.
Is there a way that, so, I mean, I'm working with one site. I'm working with 2 sites, really, like with FTN Daily for football and all the other sports, and Fantasy National for golf. Those are both sites that if you want to use like the premium tools, you have to pay for them. At Daily Roto, you have to pay for the premium tools. Every site, you have to pay for the premium tools. Do you think that there would be any sort of market for a site just doing this all for free and trying to figure out another way to monetize it? Because everyone would go to it.
Yes, but it would have to be like ESPN would have to do it, or CBS would have to do it, or Yahoo would have to do it. It'd have to be a place where they could lose $5 million on it or whatever, and be fine doing that. And it would have to exist as a way to funnel sports betting referrals, and that's how it would be justified to the business people.
Yes, or like if you're one of the, like, what if DraftKings had it?
That would make me feel sketchy.
Yeah, well, I don't even know if it's legal or not, but like, let's say that they had an optimizer, they had whatever, they had every tool that's behind a paywall, every other thing. They made it free because it encourages people to play more on DraftKings, which is logical, I would think. I think that's actually a company that could get away with doing that and making it free, because they would legitimately just be funneling the money back into themselves, because it would encourage more people to play all the time. Or if that was something you just first got interested in, well, DraftKings has all these free tools, I'll play on DraftKings, or I'll bet on DraftKings over anywhere else. I don't know the legality behind that. I'm sure that's probably why they don't do it, but it would have to be a place like that, I think, that would do. Like, could Yahoo do it? They have daily fantasy that no one plays.
Yeah, I mean, one of these sites could do it, but it would. The hard part is like no one inside the company is lobbying for that, because it's more work, and it's a lot of work. Like, to maintain good projections and optimizers, it's like a huge amount of work.
Yeah, people's jobs are to do that. Like at small sites, people's jobs are to do that. But you think,
yes, like there are people at Daily Roto, at FTN, at Roto Grinders, like their whole job is making sure that the optimizer works, that it doesn't, that when it breaks, it gets fixed, that the projections are right. Like it's not something you just like slapdick together. No,
but you already have all this infrastructure that's there already. You have entire tech teams that you're already paying for your entire business is a tech business. It's an app business. That's all it is. So you think you would have the right developmental people to go do this. And like Leone is over at Establish the Run right now. After leaving with you guys, he's over at Establish the Run. But like, what if DraftKings was like, hey, Leone, here's $1 million a year. Make sure our optimizer works.
I think the thing is you would have a hard time as DraftKings
selling that.
justifying that expense, to your shareholders and everything, because probably what ends up happening is it just ends up getting it. What that does is it keeps people who are already on your site on the site longer, I guess, but it probably drives out a lot of your whales because the games get harder.
See, this is why we talk this stuff out loud with doing no research beforehand. Just what sounds like a good idea, maybe not be a good idea. Yeah, you probably would lose. It would make the casual player a lot better playing on that site.
Yeah, I mean, so like, just like, for example, like I get head-to-head games where people just play terrible lineups against me. Like for like, like I'll just get, I'll get like a $50 game and people will use like 2 tight ends or like fade Kyler Murray at quarterback for, I don't know, Ryan Fitzpatrick. Like they'll just play random guys. And if there was an optimizer on site to fix that, I wouldn't get those games anymore.
Suppose that's true. So yeah, you'd have to figure out a way, like you said, to funnel it to affiliates for sportsbooks. Because that's, if people don't know, that's where all the money currently is.
Yeah, all the money is in trying to get yourself aligned with, a website that's going to make more money, a sports betting site that's going to make more money in the future.
Oh, John Brown back at practice just popped up on my thing.
Oh no, this is terrible news, dude. We just did the show where I was talking all about Gabriel Davis.
Yeah, and I'm not going to be releasing this on my feed until tomorrow morning, so it's going to be even more out of date. Maybe he'll miss practice on Friday and everything will be good.
Well, I've been owned by Gabriel Davis. What a tough scene.
Play him anyway. Now no one's going to play him.
Yeah, I like the angle. He's just got to score. He's got to score like a 14-yard touchdown, and he's good.
I always wonder about that. Like, obviously, you can have kind of like dead spots in your lineup, and if it comes from a cheap guy, it's not the end of the world. But like, if you pay $3,200 if you're trying to like win a giant GPP, like it was like Corey Davis, I think, a few weeks ago, or who was it? No, it was Ronald Jones. The week that Ronald Jones had the touchdown, he was mega chalk, and he only scored like 10 DraftKings points. Like that didn't help anyone.
Yeah, but the example people use now is Robert Tonyan scored 0 points and was in the second place Millionaire Maker winning lineup.
That feels like it's so like week dependent.
Yeah, I mean, you need the stat is that you need the average production for every roster spot needs to be around 25 points to win the Millionaire Maker.
Tough to do. I don't think I've ever had that. I'm not going to lie to you.
I don't think very few of us have ever had it. Like 50 people ever have had it.
Yeah, well, we have one guy at FTN, Two Gun. He's won like 3 Millionaire Makers. That's crazy.
Two Gun, yeah, he's a crusher.
Yeah, so Two Gun does this article where he sets his exposures behind the paywall, and like I go and look at them, I'm like, I wouldn't play these lineups for the life of me, and then he just keeps like raking. Like it's crazy. I was like, really? That's where you came from on this? But like his thought process makes so much sense to try to beat 150,000 people.
Yeah, I mean, you just the thing is if your goal is to try and win those massive fields, you just have to like just do very weird off the beaten path stuff. Like I think even I believe that one of the Seattle wide receivers was not even on the million. Like I think Metcalf was not even on the Millie Maker winning team last week, which is like everyone double stacked Russ. Like you just have to be perfect at every spot. Like that's why I prefer like the 1,000 to 10,000 people sized single entry tournaments on DK.
Yeah, I've been playing. I actually did this approach in golf a little bit more. Like I stopped playing the Millionaire Maker. I stopped playing like the giant $15, $10, whatever it was. And I basically just took all of that money and invested it into either like the $200 single entry, the $100 single entry, and try to find which of those tournaments has the fewest amount of people in it. Like you can find a really good like $100 single entry, 444 person. Like it got to the point where like, yeah, I would like to win $1 million. No, I'm not going to win $1 million. If I looked at my account and I won $10,000 by beating 400 people, I'd feel really good about that. And I just kind of switched my expectations up a little bit. And it's maybe a lot, but I've been far more profitable.
I mean, I can tell you it's just a lot easier to beat 1,000 people than it is to beat 150,000 people. You have to get far fewer. I mean, the lineup, I won a bunch of money last week. I literally got like 2 things right. And it's all you need. Yeah.
It's just the room for error is so much higher, which is great because I'm going to make one.
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean, like the $50, the $100, the threats, they do a 333. That's 3 max. Like those are really good tournaments to play in.
Yeah. All right. You got anything else? Anything else you want to ask me?
No, I think that's good. I think we covered a wide ranging stuff, a wide range of things that people are interested in,
or people no one is interested in. One of the two.
One of the two. People still DM me about this show. They've been like, dude, when are we getting another Corona cast? So I think people are still into it.
Yeah, I always really like doing these. It's so much different than any other show that I end up doing, just the vibe of it. But like, we've all been pretty busy, especially with golf still going on, especially for me. Just like Mondays and Tuesdays for me are just fucking like death days. Like I'm working from 6 a.m. till midnight, basically, both those days. And then Sunday, I have to watch every football game. What's interesting which sounds like fun, but at some point become like, we're into week 4 now. Like by week 9, it's going to be like, oh my God, I just want to go home and take a nap.
You ready to watch every snap of Jets Broncos?
Oh, no. I usually, if it's a Thursday game that I'm not interested in, a Sunday night game I'm not interested in, or a Monday night game that I'm not interested in, I will watch it the next morning with just the plays. So it takes like 15 minutes.
Yeah. That's the condensed game on Game Pass.
Yeah, it just that I try to go back and watch as many of those. Like any game, like I have all 8 TVs in front of me at one time, plus Red Zone as I'm watching it. But I usually try to focus in on like 3 or 4 of them and kind of switch around what I'm doing. So all the periphery ones that I don't see, I try to watch very early on a Monday morning, and just try to watch them as kind of not only as quickly as possible, but just try to get a sense of, I can look at the box score of that game. I got a sense of how it was going, but I do kind of want to see like what happened here. Like, I do think that there is I'm not necessarily like grinding film like some people, but I do like to have an actual sense of these games before I talk about them, which some people just don't do, which I guess is fine. People don't seem to care.
Yeah, I mean, I try and watch all the condensed games on Wednesday because on Sunday I just watched Red Zone.
You just watch Red Zone?
Yeah.
Huh.
Because I only care about my fantasy teams.
I guess so, but like if you've like have all your investment in the Seattle-Dallas game, like why wouldn't you have that one on?
Because I bet games, but I care way less about betting games than like you and Jeff do. Like I care way more about my fantasy, like about all my DFS and seasonal fantasy teams.
I gotta say, I'm to the point now where I just don't give a shit about season-long fantasy. Like I tried to explain it to a guy that I watch football with, who's like is like living and dying by every Derrick Henry carry for his season-long fantasy football team. He plays in like we do one for all the people that go and watch. We play a DraftKings contest together. I was like, you invest almost 20 times as much money over the course of a season in this one DraftKings contest that we do with 10 people than you do in this fucking fantasy football league, which I think is $20 to play. Like, where are your priorities here? Like, how is this like killing you every week?
Well, I mean, I play season-long fantasy football for a lot of money, so I sweat both.
Why would you play season-long fantasy football for a lot of money? I don't understand that when you can bet on games, which is an easier sports betting and football betting is not easy, but it's an easier way to win than high stakes fantasy football season-long leagues.
People are really bad at fantasy football. People are, I would say, worse at season-long fantasy football than they are at anything else. Like people just make catastrophically bad decisions all the time and are like proud of it to make these bad decisions.
Like playing Chenault over good receivers?
No, like just drafting like Leonard Fournette in the 3rd round. Like and they will kick and scream all the way down the tunnel and be like, that was the right thing to do. Like it's really absurd how bad people are at it. Like I have a bunch of teams that are not even really good, but that are, looking, and also people are terrible at waivers. Like I don't know. People are just in general not very intelligent, but people are really unintelligent when it comes to seasonal fantasy football.
Yeah, it just feels like an awful lot of time invested for very little return. Like especially waivers. Like waivers, just like I've missed waivers the last 2 weeks. I just don't care anymore. I'm over it. And I do a waiver wire show.
Well, I mean, it depends.
I put more time into thinking about how much people should spend on Fab and to talk about it on the show, and then I just completely forget myself.
Well, it's just more like, if I was playing win $150 worth of leagues, like whatever, I don't care. I wouldn't do it. But if I could win, $35,000 over the course of the year playing seasonal fantasy football, that's enough to get me to care.
Sure. I guess there's a breaking point for everyone, but just I've really switched on it. Like it sucks.
Yeah, I mean, I also just play a lot. Like I just play a lot of DFS too.
Maybe you need another hobby.
No, I need to play less fantasy football probably for my mental health.
Yeah, it seems like you've been grinding this now, like all throughout the quarantine and the lockdown. You're just drafting best ball teams the entire time. Like, maybe just having like 1 or 2 teams is the way to go.
Maybe like not next year, but maybe 2 years from now, I'll just play like 5 teams and that's it. And I'll just be done with it. And I'll just play a lot of DFS. That'll make my Sundays probably more relaxing.
Hope so. Yeah, you want to try to make Sundays as relaxing as possible. You should, as you said before, fantasy football is supposed to be fun. Like watching football is supposed to be fun. Like the most pumped up I get all week is still like 12:58. Like, hey, the games are going to start. Yeah, this is going to be a lot of fun. And not because I have a bunch of money invested in gambling or on DraftKings. Before any of that, I still got hyped up to watch football at 1:00 on Sundays.
Yeah, I'm with you 100%. Like it is fun. Like it's awesome. Like I get jazzed up at noon for you it's 1:00. For me it's noon and it's the best.
Well, mountain time I think is actually the best. 11 a.m. start is a good time. When I lived in the mountain time zone, like 10 a.m., yeah, that's a bit early.
It's a bit early.
But 11 a.m. is a nice sweet spot.
Yeah, 11 a.m. I always say Central Time is the best time, but Mountain Time actually does have a nice little edge. I think the issue you don't care about this, but the issue with Mountain Time is lock for NBA and MLB is 5:00. So you're probably busy right at 5:00, and that sucks.
Play the late slate.
You got to play all of the slates.
I see. That's another thing I've been doing. I haven't played a showdown contest yet this year. Feel very proud of myself for that.
If I was to stop doing all, like I can't even tell you how much better my whole zen would be if I was just like, all right, no more showdown, no more night slate, no more 10:30 a.m. Spanish soccer slate. Like just play the main slates for all the sports. Like I'd probably be in a much better place.
See, there you go. Leave it with that. Think about that and see if that can happen.
I will think about it. Pat, thanks, bud.
Thank you.
Batman